Are the Illuminati elite erecting an architectural colossus across this globe? A colossus of heart-stopping cosmic significance? When decoded, does this strangely curious symbolic architecture reveal the malignant intentions of the Illuminati to destroy America and set up in its wake an Illuminist Big Brother utopia? Can we, in fact, discover our amazing future by deciphering the secret hidden meanings of the many mysterious monuments and buildings now rising across this globe? I'm convinced the answer is yes. There is an Illuminati elite. They are building an architectural colossus of shocking nature, and we can break the code. We can decipher its hidden secret meaning. But first, we must look at the evidence. We must investigate, as I recently did so in my best-selling book, Mysterious Monuments. In over 2 decades of intense investigation, I have discovered a countless array of mysterious monuments and buildings secretly veiled in magical code, numerology, and symbols. And it's exploding across every continent on Earth, particularly in the United States. There seems to be a surge of satanic and Masonic occult architecture. These inventors of evil are erecting monuments, towers. These are architectural talismans of a witchcraft nature. Entire new cities are being built and are springing up in nations around the globe. So here, in this documentary video, you'll see with your own eyes the startling, often grotesque, sometimes monumental results of what has been called the great work of the Illuminati, achieved over centuries but coming into fullness or culmination in the 21st century. The architecture produced by the Illuminati elite and its architects and builders will stagger your imagination, and it will prove to even the most hardened skeptic that these fantastic architectural creations are not new, but in fact represent spiritual forces and beings venerated by untold legions in the past, but now updated, and they remain the very focus of a strange, arcane, an unknown mystery religion shared in common by many of the Illuminati elite. And you will be introduced to some of the Illuminati elite during this next hour. Now, please understand that this is symbolic architecture. Symbolic architecture. Foster Bailey, 33rd degree Freemason, wrote a book, The Spirit of Freemasonry, in which he said, a symbol veils or hides a secret, and it is that which veils mysterious forces. These energies, wrote Mr. Bailey, when released can have a potent effect. A potent effect. Mysterious forces, hiding a secret, releasing energy of a satanic or occult nature, but only deciphered, only understood in their power of magic and ritual by those insiders in the know. There are many symbols, even ornamental symbols used by architects that have to do with the occult. There are symbols, for example, that introduce us to the occult elements of water, air, fire, and earth. If we go even to symbols sometimes found in the corporate world, we see the amazing similarity to those in the cultural, social, and occult worlds. Even columns, especially in Greco-Roman architecture, are very important, and each type of column you will find has a specific occult and mystery religion meaning. The Corinthian and the Ionic and the Roman column, the Doric column, all of these mean something very important in Masonic and occult architecture. Satanic symbols such as the six-pointed star, the magic circle, the magic wand, the flaming torch, all have significance. The obelisk, of course, the winged creatures that you sometimes see in corporate logos and on buildings, Egyptian pyramids have meaning. But let's look at some of the symbols of the buildings that you will find in this architectural colossus that is just brimming over throughout the world. These are some buildings we found in aerial views that are actually Nazi swastikas. Is this by accident that these buildings, these architectural creations were designed? Multi-million-dollar buildings, one of them at a retirement home in Decatur, Alabama, another at Coronado Naval Base in California. In Copenhagen, Denmark, we found this strange police station designed as a triangle pyramid with the inner circle resembling a Roman Colosseum. I believe this is part of the intelligence network of Europe. The CIA in Pretoria, South Africa has a strange building, and there are many other symbols. For example, you would not consider the cross anything but a Christian symbol, but here we have a Celtic, sometimes called Celtic cross. In fact, in England, on the Isle of Wight at High Down in England, is the Tennyson cross, erected in memory of poet Alfred Lord Tennyson, a devoted servant of the New World Order. He wrote a poem that has become infamous. It was entitled Locksley Hall, in which he advocated a parliament of the world and a federation of man. The same cross is the very core and the crux of the Rosicrucian secret society. We can go all the way back to the medieval period in Europe and even the days of Benjamin Franklin, when Mr. Franklin was a member of this very high-level secret order, the Rosicrucians. Look at their cross and look at all of the strange symbols. Strangely enough, not only Benjamin Franklin, but Ted Kennedy was reported to be a member of the AMARC, the American Rosicrucian Order, and, as odd as it may seem, Sirhan Sirhan, the accused assassin, actually convicted assassin of Senator Bobby Kennedy, was also a Rosicrucian. And Rosicrucian textbooks and materials were found in his apartment when he was arrested. Another symbol that is very prominent among the Illuminati elite and found everywhere in architecture is the all-seeing eye of the mystery religion sun god. It can be traced all the way back to Babylon and Egypt, but it has been updated, and here we see it in a painting by Bertry in the Museum of History in Lyons, France, along with many other symbols. Interestingly, at Ground Zero in New York City, after the World Trade Center towers collapsed on 9/11, a pagan ritual ceremony that created the Eye of Horus, or Osiris, the sun gods of Egypt, was held at Ground Zero. Imagine, and look, you can see. And by the way, notice the logo on the bottom right of this picture. Not only did the pagan ritual ceremony recreate the all-seeing eye, but the CBS logo itself, the CBS network, is a all-seeing eye. You'll find these all-seeing eyes of the sun god in Catholic churches, as are shown here. And there is a sect of Buddhism called Cao Dai that has at least 2 million members worldwide. This, for example, is the great globe in its eye that is found in a Cao Dai temple. A Cao Dai temple of this sect has been built in Houston, Texas, and in a number of other cities across the United States. If we're talking about symbology and understanding the meaning of some of these secrets, we might want to take a trip to Elk Grove, California, where there's a facility of Apple computers. The first Apple computer, Apple I, was priced at the strange and bizarre price of $666 by its makers, a very young inventor Stephen Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak. $666? Could that have been by accident? But look at the facility at Elk Grove. You have a Stonehenge type building, circular on the right hand side, but then notice even the apple symbol. What does it consist of? Well, is it not the forbidden fruit? Way back, we trace back to the Garden of Eden, the story of Adam and Eve. They were told by God not to eat of the forbidden fruit. Here, the apple represents that forbidden fruit, and indeed, a bite has been taken out of it. Because the occultists believe that Adam and Eve did the right thing in taking a bite, because by doing so, they became as one of the gods, having the secret wisdom or the secret knowledge of Gnosticism. Now, we find symbols such as the Masonic square and compass all over the world on buildings where there are Masonic temples, Masonic lodges. Here is the Hampton Court area in England. Even the streets, you see, are set out in the form of the Masonic triangle or compass. We find in the United States of America, in Sandusky, Ohio, an entire city is laid out in the form of a square and compass. Research will indicate to you that a Major Hector Kilbourne was an avid Mason and the master of the first Masonic lodge in Sandusky, and he was the designer of this city. But there's more. What is interesting to know is that in this city, Sandusky, Ohio, that is laid out its streets as a Masonic square and compass, the Cedar Fair people call their wooden roller coaster that's visited by spectators and travelers from all over the world. They call it the Holy Grail of wooden roller coasters, but its official name, believe it or not, is the Beast. The Beast. Now, they've designed it in a very particular shape, and you'll understand why it's called the Beast. There are 3 trains for this wooden roller coaster ride. Each one has 6 cars. And so you come up with the numerology 666. And of course, Revelation 13 tells us the number of the beast of prophecy, the Antichrist to come, is prophesied to be 666. So the beast roller coaster is 666. And it comes from the company Cedar Fair in Sandusky, Ohio, a city that's designed as a Masonic square and compass. This Masonic square and compass is found in many other places too, sometimes in a hidden design. For example, it's suddenly and insidiously integrated in the artwork of the tiles of the Rowan Building in Long Beach, California. The Masonic square and compass symbol is actually patterned on the design of the Star and David, also known as the witches' hexagram. And the witches have a saying, they threaten to place a curse on people, or a hex, and thus the meaning of the hexagram. From the Masonic square and compass, then, we can derive the Jewish Star of David. In Virginia, outside of Washington, D.C., is an interesting building. It is the George Washington Masonic National Memorial in Alexandria, Virginia. Alexandria, Virginia is the sister city to Alexandria, Egypt. And you'll notice the great pyramid with its steps that was erected on the very top of this George Washington Masonic National Memorial. Notice also the bottom level is on the form architecturally of a Greco-Roman temple. And then you will see down below is the Masonic square and compass with the letter G. The explanation for the G, well, it could be God, it could be geometry, it could be gnosis, or it could be the woman's sexual organ. Take your pick according to which Masonic textbook you read. But again, look at the square and compass and the Masonic G, and notice this building very carefully, because it is in fact designed to be a recreation of Poseidon's lighthouse, the magnificent Pharos of Alexandria, one of the ancient seven wonders of the world, conceived by Alexander the Great in 332 BC and built by the Greek architect Sostratus about 50 years later. It was topped by a monumental statue of Poseidon, the god of the seas. Master of earth, trident, spear in hand, he stands atop this great Pharos lighthouse monument overlooking the world. And again, this is the model for the Washington National Masonic Monument. It is also similar in style and appearance to Herod's lighthouse tower. King Herod, no longer in existence. This great lighthouse and statuary structure was built by Israel's infamous King Herod and set in the harbor of the city of Caesarea, named for Herod's patron, Caesar Augustus, Emperor of Rome. Now, who is responsible for building this architectural colossus that can be traced all the way back to the days of Babylon, Egypt, Rome, and Greece? It is, in fact, the Freemasons that seem to be at the very core of the philosophy that underlines the architectural colossus of the Illuminati. One of the best-selling and classic textbooks of all time in the Masonic lodges is a book entitled The Builders by Joseph Fort Newton. You see, the Masons themselves say, we are the builders, and their goal is to build a new world. In fact, Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree Mason, wrote a book entitled The Secret Destiny of America, in which he stated, quote, architecture remained a chosen instrument for the perpetuation of the grand design, the building of the perfect world. The perfect world, but it is a world that will be led by their Antichrist ruler, I am convinced. It is a world that will be devoid of humanity, of compassion. Now, if we look at this world that is building and the architecture, we will understand that this is nothing less than a psychological matrix, a system of glass and steel and brick and stone and statuary that is talismanic. In other words, these are talismans. They're magical instruments. And with this, Satan evidently believes he can conquer the world. That is, if you believe in Satan. Many of these people, these architects, in fact, do. In this book, The Keys of Enoch by J.J. Hertag, we see the process. An illuminist visionary has a vision. And in his vision, in his mind's eye, he sees architecture in another world. Temples on the other side. In fact, one of the world's best-known psychics, her book was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, Miss Sylvia Browne, actually wrote a book. This is an advertisement for it. The book was entitled Temples on the Other Side. She says there are many temples and halls that exist in the beyond, in an invisible world that we cannot see. You can access these temples on the other side only through special rituals and meditative techniques. So they see these strange architectural devices and creations in their mind's eye existing in the other world, and they go about to build in their great work these devices, these architectural creations in this world, in the world that we can see. You see, in the occult world, there is always a side that you can see, and there is a hidden reality, a hidden reality. This is the Hermetic doctrine of as above, so below, and it's perfectly represented in a system of magic called the Great Seal of Solomon. This is from Eliphas Levi's classic occult text, Transcendental Magic, way back in the year 1896. Notice all of the symbols here in this oval encirclement. Notice the serpent, Ouroboros, wrapped around it, swallowing his own tail, a satanic boast that he will reign and rule forever. Notice the king, and notice the six-pointed star image. And then you will see the obelisk on the right that is shaped like a phallus, and other symbols, including the pyramid down below. If you turn this symbol over, of course, you will see the darkness. Turn it back over again and you will see the light. An alternation between light and darkness. Now, this same dual world, as above, so below, is recreated in this architectural colossus, so that there is an architectural colossus in the other hidden invisible world. And these men of the Illuminati, the builders and their architects, are recreating the world they see in their mind's eye in this present day world. And thus the reason that Manly P. Hall, in his book, The Secret Destiny of America, proclaims that the grand design is for the building of this new utopia, the perfect world. They're recreating a hellish vision they're seeing in the beyond. Now, in this world, there is always the unholy trinity and this dualism. For example, the witchcraft sects have an unholy trinity. You see it here. You see the great witchcraft goddess on the left with the crescent moon on her head. And then on the right-hand side, you see the horned god, Satan. They are upholding the globe or the world. The cherub, their son, is below. A perfect picture of the unholy trinity. Here is another one as well. You'll see the same type situation. The star represents their star god. A god that the Bible reveals is in fact Lucifer, the so-called morning star. He is the dual god. He claims to be the god of both light and darkness, of both good and evil. And thus it is in the ancient Aztec religion of Mesoamerica and Mexico. We have this double-headed god with two serpent heads. In the Hindu religion, which is a perfect, almost perfect Illuminati religion, you have the god Agni, the Hindu god of fire, with two heads. In the days of Rome, there was Janus, the Roman two-faced god of the sun. The ancient Greeks had Hermes, messenger of the gods. He carried with him the caduceus. It was a rod representing the phallus of the sun god. And notice the two serpents wrapped around the caduceus rod. Again, the dualism, the light and the darkness of the Illuminati. Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree, was called the greatest Masonic scholar of the 20th century in the Scottish Rite Journal, their official publication. He says that the Mason must learn the key to the warrior on the block. When he does so, he is able to apply a dynamo of living power, having learned the mystery of his craft, and the seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands. Lucifer. This, then, is a Luciferian religion. Albert Pike, former Sovereign Grand Commander of Freemasonry, once wrote, "Lucifer, the light bearer, strange and mysterious name to give to the spirit of darkness, Lucifer, the son of the morning. Is it he who bears the light?" He goes on to say, "Doubt it not." Now, in Burbank, California's City Hall, there's a strange medallion that has been installed. It is, in fact, an image of modern illumined man, the Superman of the new order of the ages that has been promised. Here he is in all his radiant glory. You see the sun behind him. So he is the epitome of the power of this living dynamo of the sun god. Notice also you have underneath him various symbols. And then on each of his arms, he has outstretched them, and you will see each one having an airplane, meaning he is the father of modern technology. This is a man who has been called the architect of pantheism, or the architect of mysticism, Frank Lloyd Wright. He is only one of many architects responsible for this architectural colossus. He died in 1959, but these occultic works live on. His most famous work of architecture, perhaps, was a residence called Falling Water in Bear Run, Pennsylvania. Notice how he attempted to blend nature in with his works. Now, he's been credited for this. It's interesting, though, that he worshiped nature's God himself, and I'll prove that in just a minute. We also see that he has built many architectural structures that are and residences that are designed as Mayan, Incan, or Aztec temples. And you'll remember all of the human sacrifices and cannibalism that occurred in those horrible sites in Central and South America. This is Taliesin West, Frank Lloyd Wright's former home, and it continues to be headquarters for a community of architects who venerate and honor and almost adore Frank Lloyd Wright. This is a demonic statue at Unity Temple in Oak Park, Illinois, a product of architect Frank Lloyd Wright. Mr. Wright even designed this synagogue, the Beth Shalom Synagogue in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Notice its striking similarity to Oriental architecture and particularly the Egyptian pyramid. Mr. Wright, as is true of many of the architects of this Illuminati Colossus, was a great student, a very avid and fervent student of the works of a woman named Helena Blavatsky, a 19th century philosopher and occult doctrinal leader. She inspired many of these architects. This is a picture of her, but notice the logo of Theosophy, the Masonic affiliated occult organization that Miss Blavatsky founded in the late 19th century. Again, we see the crowned Ouroboros circular serpent, the six-pointed Star of David, the swastika, an ancient sun symbol. All of these things are integrated into this symbol. Who are these men? Who are these men of the Illuminati and these secret societies? They include Great Britain's Duke of Kent, head of the United Lodge, Masonic sect in Great Britain. Here he is given a secret Masonic handshake to a Masonic friend. Lyndon B. Johnson, of course, President of the United States, was a Freemason. Was he involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy? Many believe indeed he was. William Jefferson Clinton certainly is in the ranks of the Illuminati elite, although I believe he is simply a lower level servant. Here we see Mr. Clinton giving a Kabbalistic hand sign. Former Attorney General John Ashcroft also holding his hand in a Kabbalistic way. Another man, Senator Charles Schumer. We could go on and on, of course, revealing these men. Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker. The Red Star, a former Soviet Union, Mr. Gorbachev, honored here by Vanity Fair magazine, is the man who shook the world. Arnold Schwarzenegger seems to be one of the favored sons of these people. Here we have Schwarzenegger on the grounds of Waddesdon Manor, the luxurious estate of Britain's Lord Jacob Rothschild, the Rothschild dynasty, reputed to be the most powerful and richest bloodline of the Illuminati in the world. Mr. Rothschild is to Schwarzenegger's left, your right, and to Mr. Schwarzenegger, now governor of California, to his right is Warren Buffett, perhaps the richest man in America. David Rockefeller surely should not be left out of any discussion of the Illuminati. Here he is in the glossy Town and Country magazine giving a Kabbalistic pyramidal hand sign. Again, many of these people communicate through hand signs, gestures, body signs. David Rockefeller, former chairman of Chase Manhattan Bank, his father, John D. Rockefeller, founded the colossal oil empire of Standard Oil that's been broken up into many parts now, Exxon Mobil, Shell, and many others. We get back to Governor Schwarzenegger again on the cover of Time magazine with Mayor Bloomberg, another billionaire member of the elite. I'd like you to notice something about this cover. Notice that Schwarzenegger and Bloomberg looking like, the cat that swallowed the canary. You'll notice that he has his arm around Mr. Bloomberg in such a way that his ring with its very curious symbol is shown. But double back to the man's belt buckle. Why, who is that an image of? Ah, yes, old El Diablo, Satan, there on the silver belt buckle of Governor Schwarzenegger. Sometimes they exalt their servants to such a degree that they are almost made into demigods. For example, take these pictures of President George W. Bush. Notice how the photographer always was able to frame the head of President George W. Bush with this halo surrounding it. Of course, the Illuminati elite and these secret societies can be traced back many centuries. This is George Washington, the first president of the United States. And notice all of the symbols and items of Freemasonry and of Masonic architecture around him. Harry S. Truman, escalating up into the 1940s and 1950s, is here in all of his Scottish Rite Masonic regalia. Again, back to George Washington, laying the cornerstone for the U.S. Capitol building and having a Masonic ritual in doing so, in which he consecrated corn, oil, and wine in the laying of this cornerstone. The Georgia Guidestones outside the town of Eberton, Georgia, they had their precepts of the Illuminati inscribed on the stones in 8 different languages. And they had 10 precepts or rules or guides for humanity. One of them, the very first one, says, maintain humanity under 500 million. They want the world's population to be reduced from 6.5 billion to just 0.5 billion. After they get rid of 6 out of 6.5 billion people, what a slaughter that will be. Only 500 million will be left on this planet, and they will be kept in perpetual balance with nature. The pyramid seems to be very important to the Illuminati, and pyramids are going up around the globe. Of course, we have the new Luxor Pyramid in Las Vegas, Nevada. If we take out our $1 bills of the U.S. currency, you will see the Egyptian pyramid and the all-seeing eye, as well as the 6-pointed star, the hexagram, above the head of the eagle. But this all-seeing eye and many of these symbols can be traced way back further in history than their recreation during the American Revolution and the founding of the American Republic. These are pictures from Sir Walter Raleigh of England, his distinguished book, The History of the World. Notice again the all-seeing eye and other symbols. The elite seem to gather themselves together in groups such as the Order of Skull and Bones, Chapter 322, off the campus of Yale University. The Bushes are members, as well as is Senator John Kerry of that organization. But all of these men happen to be members, or at least many of them are, of a group called the Council on Foreign Relations. This is the symbol or the logo of the CFR, the Council on Foreign Relations, headquartered in New York. Notice its logo is a conquering, wild, naked man riding a rampant white horse while giving another curious sign with his hand. Of course, the book of Revelation, chapter 6, talks about the man who rides the white horse and ushers in a calamitous age of sinister evil. Is that the man riding this horse on the CFR logo? If we go around the world, we find these strange symbols in architecture. Some of them can even be traced back to ancient Israel and the foundation of the Freemasons. In what I call Rothschild's unholy legacy in the Holy Land, you'll find this Masonic monument in the town of Eilat, Israel. The first town you come to or arriving out of Egypt, north into Israel. Notice the Masonic square and compass, the 2 pillars, Jachin and Boaz, of Freemasonry, the circular tiles or cobblestones, and then of course the all-seeing eye inside the pyramid. Rothschilds also founded the nation of Israel's new Supreme Court complex, with its pyramid within a circle, obelisk, and other Masonic Illuminist architectural elements. And according to some sources, the Rothschilds helped to fund Hebrew University in Jerusalem, founded in 1925, and notice that a pyramid lies in the courtyard of the Hebrew University as well. Returning to the United States, we find quite often an Egyptian theme. This is the naked Egyptian rockets on the Rockefeller Center building, constructed by the Rockefeller dynasty. Now, you know about the Music City Rockettes, but these are different. These are Egyptian Rockettes. Chorus girls wearing only stockings, boots, a neckpiece, and headdresses. This Egyptian theme seems to be prominent. This is a picture of H. Spencer Lewis, founder of the American Rosicrucians, at their headquarters in San Jose, California. And we see many examples of Egyptian architecture throughout the United States. What do pyramids stand for? What do they mean? When you visit the nation of Egypt, there are the great pyramids, such as the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, I want you to understand something. These were pyramids of the ancient kings or pharaohs of Egypt. The pyramid, of course, it means a pyre, P-Y-R-E, which is a place of fire. Well, what fire is it? It is the fire of Lucifer. Some years ago, at the turn of the century, a man named Aleister Crowley from Great Britain. He was head of a Church of Satan and a member of an occult group called the OTO, Ordo Templi Orientalis. He was also a member of the British secret intelligence agency, sort of a James Bond. He lived in Sicily in a mansion and carried on sexual satanic rituals of a homosexual and other nature. He also brought a number of women into his cult, and he branded, literally branded with a branding iron on their breast, what he called the mark of the beast. He called himself the most wicked man on earth. He was a Satanist. Aleister Crowley visited the Great Pyramid in Giza, Egypt. And as I show in my book, Mysterious Monuments, he bribed the guard to spend the night deep inside the Great Pyramid in the king's chamber, the Pharaoh's chamber, where the Pharaoh had been housed. You see, the pyramid is nothing more nor less than a tomb of the dead. No light at all deep inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. But suddenly, he says, at the very stroke of midnight, a great light appeared. And a voice came to him. It was none other than Satan or Lucifer. The sun at midnight, he was called in the mystery religions. Now let's fast forward to our day and time. Isaac Tegret is a very, very wealthy man. He started a restaurant chain called the Hard Rock Cafes. Now, you may have seen t-shirts worn by young people who are really gung-ho about the Hard Rock Cafe. And the t-shirt has a huge logo or image on the front of the sun and the name Hard Rock. Why the sun? They worship Osiris, the great sun god of the pyramids of Egypt. Osiris. And Isaac Tegret traveled over to Egypt, and he also, as did his predecessor, the wickedest, baddest man on the planet, Aleister Crowley, Isaac Tegret bribed a guard and was allowed to spend the night in the great king's chamber deep inside the pyramid. Just as happened to Aleister Crowley before him, a great light occurred exactly at the stroke of midnight. And Lucifer said, Isaac Tegret, you must take much of your money and build a pyramid in the United States of America. So Memphis, Tennessee is a sister city of Memphis, Egypt. It sits along the Mississippi River, the greatest river in the North American continent. And of course, the Great Pyramid of Giza sits nearby the Great Nile River. Isaac Tigret and his friends did indeed convince the city fathers of Memphis, Tennessee to allow them to build this great, towering structure, gleaming in the sun. It's called the Great American Pyramid. In Frankfurt, Germany, the European Central Bank has a stunning new building designed in the form of the sun god Osiris's mark, which was X. In an amazing city that is now being built in Astana, Kazakhstan. In fact, Astana is a new city. I call it the gleaming new city of the Illuminati. In this oil-rich former USSR Republic, Kazakhstan, this new city has such organizations as the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation and a Congress of World and Traditional Religions, an attempt to bring all the world's religions together, including Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. Now, Kazakhstan is a nation that is mostly Muslim, and yet these monuments are not built to Islam or Christianity. They're built to devils. An entire city. How can they do it? How do they get the hundreds of millions of dollars to build these huge towering structures? Oil money. Maybe you and I, in buying gasoline, were helping to build then the gleaming new star city of the Illuminati, and they meet at the very apex of this great pyramid that's been built. The name Astana itself stands for star. So indeed, this is the star city of the Illuminati, built in Kazakhstan. The furqa, or peace symbol design, is clearly shown in this aerial view of the city. So you will see the rivers that appear as the broken cross, and then the circle. This is the street layout of Astana, the gleaming new city of the Illuminati. In Fort Worth, Texas, the Illuminati have constructed a new mint. Some believe a new currency, the North American Amaro, will be printed at this new mint. In making money, did they need these designs that they have? The Great Pyramid inside the circle representing the sun god, the orb of the sun. Pope Benedict XVI said Mass at this Illuminist-designed Catholic church in Poland in 2006. Notice again the all-seeing eye, the radiant sun rays, the strange horn-like creations on each side of the pyramid. Some Christian friends came to see me, and they said, Tex, you must investigate a great temple of blood being built in Santo Domingo, the Dominican Republic, just off the shores of the United States, shaped somewhat like a cross, but on top of it is a Mayan pyramid. And on top of that is a giant laser beam. And it's been built by the Knights of Malta, the secret order of the Vatican. The rich Illuminati of the nation of Brazil and South America have built an entire new city. And there they have built a temple devoted to who? Devil spirits. And they have a huge bronze plaque at the entrance, and it says, Spirits, you are welcome. An invitation to demons. The European Union has built what some have called the new Tower of Babel. But just as the old Tower of Babel was left unfinished when God confounded the builders by causing each one to speak a different language, and they were unable to communicate with each other and continue the building process, the European Union's Tower of Babel, the new Parliament building in Strasbourg, France, is a striking structure that is an unfinished Tower of Babel. Now, this is, again, the Euro Babel. I call it the Euro Babel Tower, set within a telling constellation of arches, triangles, circles, and domes. This is an overhead aerial view shot. The message here is, of course, that they will complete the job that King Nimrod and his queen Semiramis failed to do. It's interesting that the new European Community flag is made up of a circle, the circle of the sun with 12 stars. There are 12 signs in the zodiac. And the new anthem, the national anthem, the music of the European Community, is Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Ode to Joy. The famous composer and musician Friedrich Schiller's lyrics glorify the great goddess, daughter of Elysium, whose magic binds all of mankind and makes them brothers. One magazine, Prophetic Vision, founder David Hathaway, in 2003 indicated that the new European building and the Tower of Babel are strikingly similar, as you can see. Chicago has a building somewhat like it. We also find the Muslims and even the Catholic churches now beginning to build minarets, ziggurats, and other buildings. This is found in Soviet Russia. Soviet Russian architect Tatlin proposed a monument to the Third International, the communist planned utopia. It was to be a rising steel spiral Tower of Babel, some 1,000 in height. It was never built. It was meant to commemorate the Marxist-Leninist revolution. This is a Babylonian ziggurat, but today it's an Islamic minaret, the Mosque of Samarra in Iraq. In America, the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Reorganized Mormons, now unofficially called the Community of Christ, in 2000 opened up this very unusual Babylonian-style ziggurat, almost resembling a corkscrew. They said that it is a spiral ascending to Zion. It's built, of course, in the city of Independence, Missouri, where they believe that their Messiah will someday return to govern and rule the world. The spiral, of course, has a long-founded occult history, as these mysterious diagrams and illustrations demonstrate. Over in Germany, the Reichstag has been reborn from its tortured past, said a news item. And in fact, it has. The ancient Greco-Roman Reichstag building that houses Germany's parliament or legislature has been rebuilt, reconstructed again from the ashes. But wait, inside is a conical structure and a new dome, and some believe has Illuminist satanic implications. In an attempt almost to recreate the building of the Tower of Babel, we see an amazing array of skyscrapers reaching up toward the heavens in the clouds. This is the Burj Dubai Tower in the booming Persian Gulf Emirate of Dubai. It's scheduled to be 2,684 feet tall, but other buildings will be even taller. For example, this man, the billionaire Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, is building the Mile High Tower, 5,250 feet tall, a mile-high tower. But wait, there's more. In nearby United Arab Emirates, a competing tower, the Ultima Tower, is proposed, which will rise 500 floors and be 2 miles high. One of the ways that we can identify much of this architecture is the astrological nature of it. One of colonial America's most successful publishing ventures was Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac. In 1733, this edition demonstrated the astrological symbols and the horoscope that was believed in by many Americans at the time. But don't laugh too hard, because this kind of astrology is found even today. This is from the zodiac on the ceiling of the Egyptian temple in Dendera, Egypt. But in the Palace of the Nations, outside the Palace of the Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, is this star and constellation globe. And inside the Great Hall of the Library of Congress is this painting of a cherub holding a globe which contains the signs of the zodiac. Many of the 7 wonders of the ancient world are being rebuilt by the Illuminati today. Babylon's fabulous hanging gardens, and the monument to the great Greek god Zeus have been recreated in the world today. The temple to Zeus is located in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin, Germany. Here we have another Zeus, father of the gods. This statue, this is a representation of the statue that's found in the lobby of the United Nations. And yet another Zeus is found carved in stone at New York's Rockefeller Center in New York City, built, of course, by the architects hired by the Rockefellers. Notice this Zeus, whose hand is in a strange symbol, has a Masonic square and compass, and he's measuring the earth. Around the world we find temples and buildings erected to the glory of the ancient gods and goddesses of Egypt, but they're back for today because the mystery religions are celebrated today among the Illuminist architects and builders. The National Archives building, again you see the ancient Greek and Roman gods and goddesses. This is the east wall frieze of the United States Supreme Court chambers. The Pantheon in Rome was the architectural model used by Thomas Jefferson to design both the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. and his own estate home, Monticello, in Virginia. In Nashville, Tennessee, they have recreated the ancient ruins of the Parthenon from Greece. Even Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange building, with its depraved vision of ghoulish creatures, all superintended by a great goddess from Greece and Rome, Egypt and Babylon, outstretching her hands to the poor. Is this the goddess worshipped by the moneyed elite? Indeed it is. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that city's Museum of Art, completed long ago in 1932, seems to be superintended by, again, the great statue of Zeus. The Vanderbilt dynasty and bloodline of the Illuminati constructed the Grand Central Terminal Railroad Station in New York. It showcases Mercury, the great Greek god of transportation, but also the god of magic. Here we have Mercury carrying the dual serpent-headed phallus rod, the caduceus. What does an ancient Greek god, Hermes, have to do with modern-day transportation? Zeus, again, is found in Los Angeles. And along with this devil, the Motion Picture Producers of America organization has this naked statue, again, of the god Mercury, called Hermes. We're still in Los Angeles, California, and we arrive at the Union Oil Building, where we find this carved representation, again, of Mercury holding the Illuminati torch of enlightenment. Zeus is found also in Venus, California. Oh yes, their god is worshipped, and the gospel in stone of this god is found everywhere. Back to the Wilshire Tower in Los Angeles, we have the Babylonian supreme deity, again holding a compass in his hand. He was called the master builder of creation. America's state capitals display the same Greco-Roman architecture and its ancient gods, many of whom stand atop the domes of these state capitals. Even cathedrals, St. Paul's Cathedral in London and others. In 1893, worship of these gods was indicated at the World Columbian Exposition, a World's Fair held in Chicago, Illinois. Back to New York City, we have Rockefeller's golden boy, Prometheus, at the fountain outside the Rockefeller Center. Not to be outdone, AT&T also has its own statue of the golden boy, holding up thunderbolts in the form of X, the sign of Osiris. Is this the Antichrist who promises to bring in a golden age of prosperity? The architect was a man named Philip Johnson. He designed this building curiously to stand exactly 666 feet tall. Again, we turn to Bible prophecy. The book of Daniel tells us that the last days system of the Antichrist, 666, will come out of the nation of Greece. You see, in the book of Daniel, 4 great kingdoms are pictured. And the latter days kingdom, right at the end of time, will be a horrible period of evil, chaos, anarchy. And during that great period will come all of the evil that once flowed out of Greece. It's pictured as a great he-goat that comes out of ancient Greece. And maybe it was a natural thing then that in the summer of 2008, the Democratic National Convention was held, in which Senator Barack Obama of Illinois accepted the nomination of his party for the high office of President of the United States. And the theme at the 80,000-seat stadium in Denver, Colorado, where he accepted this great honor, was the set was built in the form of a Grecian temple. Notice the raised circular steps and the podium from which Senator Obama spoke. The sun symbol is very important in Illuminous architecture, and amazingly we find this great tower with its sun rays at Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, along with many other symbols that can be tied to the Masonic fraternity. Oral Roberts, of course, was a famous faith healer, charismatic movement. He was also, it is reputed, a 33rd degree Mason. Here we see him with a friend of his, a very close friend, Gene Dixon, the famous celebrity psychic and astrologer. The goddess was always celebrated in the Greco-Roman religions, and so it stands to reason that the goddess would be elevated to the very top of the U.S. Capitol by our nation's founders. And so this Greco-Roman theme sees the great goddess. This is, in fact, the so-called Statue of Freedom that stands atop the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C. But in Europe, the European community has erected its own goddess. Outside the European Union building in Brussels, Belgium, the stern face of the goddess is shown as she holds in her right hand the euro, and beneath her, the supine, cowering people of Europe. Now, this is only some of the Illuminati architecture that we will find in this great Colossus. I have 875 pictures in my book, Mysterious Monuments. Some people ask, what is it all about? It's about the last days. It's about prophecy. It's about your future and mine. Architecture, dear friends, is prophecy. Architecture is destiny.